next year, and I do that, they might reward me handsomely with another contract where I get another couple of years out of it.
Well, I think so. And I think also he understands that, there's a big difference between being the quarterback for the Green Bay Packers and being a sports superstar in New York City. I mean, he's got a lot of opportunities now to capitalize on where he is. And I think he understands he can make money on that, and he can, improve his net worth. I mean, the guy doesn't really need money either. I mean, let's
Yeah,
be honest
I
there. I
didn't need
mean,
it.
he's made 200 and something $1 million over his career, just in salary alone, before he got one endorsement. So he's got cash. But I give him some credit, man. He didn't have to do that, and I think he did it to make the team better. And I think he also appreciates that finally he's on a team where they're trying to get him some talent. They're drafting wide receivers and running backs and in the first couple of rounds, and doing things to try and make the offense better, instead of just
Well,
putting it all on his shoulders.
yeah, I'm not going to totally jump on and bury the Packers. I think he was up in Green Bay. He was kind of a prisoner of his own talent. He produced every year and got him to the playoffs. It's kind of like it's those teams that I can't think of a good analogy for it, but it's like they thought, hey, we got Aaron here. We get to the playoffs, we'll take our shot. Aaron's going to.
Yeah, but I mean, how many times did they draft a wide receiver
Oh,
in
they
the
did a
first
terrible
round?
job. They did
How
a
many
terrible
times
job.
did they draft a? Their whole thing was they spent all their draft capital on defense. They
Right.
they they went out in free agency and spent all their money on defense,
Yep.
and then every year it was the defense that let them down in the playoffs. Think back to that game against the 49ers when they were in the NFC Championship
They
game,
go right off the
and
field.
Raheem Mostert is still running for yards on that defense. So it made no sense to me, and I'm actually kind of happy for the guy,
I am too.
that he got to get out of there. And I'm really just excited that he's playing for the Jets, because it was abysmal watching Zach Wilson back there trying to throw the ball more than 10 yards because he
Well, and
couldn't do it.
it'd be nice. I tell you, like I said, and growing up around here, I have I definitely despise Yankee fans, but I don't despise any other fan base, and I really feel sorry for the Jets because they are some of the most loyal fans in the world, and they show up every week. And they believe. They've tried to believe. They've tried to believe, and really, this is the first time they've had a quarterback who really potentially could put him in the Super Bowl. I mean, people talk about Vinny Testaverde that one year, but that was an anomaly in Vinny Testaverde's career. I mean,
Oh, and Chad Pennington. I mean,
yeah,
Chad Pennington,
had,
who's from Knoxville, Tennessee, I might add, is a great young man, and really overachieved, honestly, in the NFL with his skill set. But was that a guy that could win you the Super Bowl every year? I mean, no, he wasn't. And so, glory to him for all the things that he was able to accomplish. But let's be honest, this is the most talented quarterback that the Jets have ever had,
oh yeah. The
ever.
thing the thing about Chad Pennington was he's a total anomaly when you think about it. We always talk about the quarterback with the $1 million arm and the 10-cent head. He had the $1 million head with the 10-cent arm.
Well, in high school, I was always trying to figure out how he got a scholarship to play at Marshall, considering in high school they ran the wing T and he threw it like 9 times a game. And I was like, wait, this guy's playing college football? I was like, I don't think he even threw it when we played against him. But he was a good athlete and a smart guy,
Yeah.
and he certainly parlayed his abilities into a tremendous NFL career.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that he never got to pay off in a Super Bowl, but I mean he was a classy guy, and they were good to have here. Um, Speaking of this, I saw a little bit of blurb that came across. Baker Mayfield's in trouble down in Tampa Bay. Might not be starting in Week 1.
In trouble for what?
No, they don't think he's going to be the starting quarterback. They don't, for some reason. The reports are he's probably not going to be the starting quarterback, and I
Uh,
don't know. I don't see.
I mean, he hasn't really been ripping up practice, but I mean, this is a guy who's a competitor. He's more of a gamer, really, than I mean, he's a walk-on
Yeah,
at Texas Tech and a walk-on at Oklahoma until he earned his scholarship. So it's not like he He ripped up practices all the time and led everybody to believe he was some 5-star caliber player. But out on the field, I think he's good. I think he gives the Buccaneers the best chance to win. I don't know if this offense is really the best thing for him. As me and you have talked about a number of times, I feel like it would have been best for his career to stay in L.A. Under Sean McVay. He looked pretty good in that system. Who knows if Matt Stafford is ever even going to get back to where he was. I think he should have stayed in L.A., and I think it was a mistake to go to Tampa. I think Tampa's going the wrong way, and I think he may fall victim to that.
Yeah, I have a feeling you're right about that. I think he made a bad choice because I do think Tampa Bay is on its way down, and their coaching staff is not the type that can keep the train from rolling downhill. I think they're gonna lose people, and it's gonna be it's gonna. But the other thing is they're in a poor division. I mean, the Saints should be probably be the team there. Carolina's rookie quarterback. I mean, who else down there?
I feel like
Atlanta?
The Buccaneers should be able to compete in the division for sure. I mean, there's nobody running away with it. But, I mean, I look at a team, what they do in the offseason. I look at who they lose, who they pick up, who they draft, who they get in free agency. And the Buccaneers, in my opinion, had the worst offseason of any of those teams. And not even counting Baker. I'm just looking at the rest of the organization and who they lost on defense, who they added on offense and defense. And I feel like the Buccaneers probably had the worst offseason of anyone. And let's be honest, the team didn't look the same last year under Coach Todd as it did under the previous regime.
I think Todd is going to be for lack of a better person, Romeo Crennel, great defensive coordinator, not so much a head coach.
Yeah, this is going to be his last head coaching job because I feel like the Buccaneers are going to underachieve this year. He's going to get fired, and he's going to be a defense coordinator again, but he's never going to get another head job after this.
No, he'll always have a defensive coordinator job. What are we hearing out of the Rams? Stetson Bennett, how's he showing up out there? You hear anything?
They've just been in practice for about a week, but I think Stetson, I don't know if he's really ready to be the starter, but I think I think there's real question marks about the durability of Matt Stafford, and it's Rippon versus Bennett right now, and whoever comes up and is named the backup, I feel like that person is going to get to play. To be honest with you, I feel like Stetson Bennett's probably better than Rippon. I mean, we've seen Brett Rippon in Denver. We saw him play a couple of games. I mean, he's not a bad NFL quarterback. I feel like he's a little bit better than people give him credit for. But I do feel like Stetson Bennett has proven to me that he can win games. I mean, I'm done doubting that kid. I have to admit that I was wrong about him. I never thought he would ever lead the Georgia Bulldogs to a national championship, and hell, he did it twice. So I wouldn't count that kid out from anything, and I just feel like whoever wins that job is going to end up playing some this year.
Yeah, and then San Francisco got some good news with Brock Purdy playing a little bit, or he's back throwing the ball. So it looks like Trey Lance will be either Trey Lance or Sam Darnold is going to be cut at the end of training camp. Can't keep both of them.
I think they're going to try and trade Trey Lance. I really do. They've got a lot of money invested in him. They moved up in the draft to take him. He's still, it's not like he's just crapped the bed every time he's gotten a chance to play. He really hasn't played, so he's more of an unknown commodity instead of a bust. So I feel like he still has a little bit of trade value, and I feel like if Purdy comes back like he has and continues to get better and better and show the arm strength and show the ability to start in week one, I think they're going to try and trade Trey Lance for whatever they can get and just move on from him.
But where would be a place he could go to? I mean, maybe Detroit and sit behind Jared Goff for a couple of years. I mean,
I don't think Detroit's where he's going because they drafted Hendon Hooker and
Tennessee.
From Tennessee.
No, I know. I'm thinking now. I'm just throwing out names. Tennessee. No,
Tennessee, they just drafted Will Levis, and they've got Malik Willis, who they drafted last year. So they've got Levis and Willis, and they've still got Tannehill. So they've got three guys there who are fighting for the job. I'm not sure exactly where he goes. I mean, I think Green Bay is a possibility if Jordan Love goes out in the field and falls on his face or struggles mightily. I think that might be a spot where they look to move him. I think Minnesota has been rumored to be in the Trey Lance sweepstakes because they're not going to have Kirk Cousins next year. And if the season goes bad for the Vikings, which I think it's going to, I think they're probably going to put somebody else out there and see what they can do. And they don't really have a developmental guy. So I feel like Minnesota or Green Bay is probably his most likely landing spot.
But wouldn't that be a weird trade partners, San Francisco and Green Bay? I mean, they're rivals. They've fought had a lot of big time playoff battles, including some championship game battles. Do you really see the San Francisco trying to give Green Bay a safety net, especially with the fact that they finally know that there's not Aaron Rodgers waiting for them if they get to the playoffs and have them come into town?
I mean, there's not where else are they going to go? I mean, I just don't think they can be real picky as far as who they go through. And it's not like the old days where, a team in a division just wouldn't trade to another team in the division. We see that happen all the time now. Yeah. And bitter rivals kind of, frown upon trading guys to each other. Yeah. But I think this is kind of a special circumstance. This is a quarterback. And if these two teams need a quarterback, you're going to have to use these guys as trade partners because you've got to get the best value you can get. And that's what they're looking for right now. They're not looking, hey, I don't want to trade it to them because we might play them at some point down the road in several years. Like, screw that. They've got to get what they can get because they gave up a lot to bring this guy in. And let's be honest, he's not their guy. He's not going to be starting for the Niners. And, he may not play at all. And it's been kind of bad luck for him. But also, he hasn't really stepped up to the plate and just taken over as being the guy. So I think he's going to have to go somewhere else, and maybe a change of scenery will be the best thing for Trey Lance.
All right, so we got the Hall of Fame game tonight. When you tune in, I'll tune in to watch some of it just to see what's going on. I don't expect to see any starters out there. What should we be looking at? See if Zach Wilson can do something to make us think that a couple of years behind Aaron Rodgers, he could turn into a good backup?
I'm out of the Zach Wilson sweepstakes, man. I've seen all I need to see from him. I didn't think he was very good at all to begin with. I was shocked that teams were talking about drafting him in the first round. I thought it was all a smokescreen. I was like, no one's really going to draft him in the first round. And then lo and behold, my team goes and does it. And they found out real quick it was a mistake. And it wasn't just a 1 year thing. He sucked for 2 years. I don't see. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say he can't get better because he can improve. But do I see a guy who can be a starter in this league? I don't know. I mean, I really don't think so. But they've got a decent team around him, and if he can, change his freaking attitude and really, put his nose to the grindstone and work his ass off. Maybe he can put something out there on tape where another team will give him a chance. Hell, Sam Darnold's still in the league, so maybe Zach Wilson will still be in the league too. But I think that's, my biggest thing that I want to see is what do the Browns look like? Do the Browns look like a team that could potentially be in the playoffs this year or not? Because that's what, everybody's talking about right now as far as these two teams go. Are the Jets going to be a playoff team? Are the Browns going to be a playoff team? Are the Jets going to be one? The Browns, no. The Browns, yes. The Jets, no. I think that's what everybody's kind of talking about going into this game tonight. And my feeling is I feel like the Jets are a playoff team, and the Browns I'm kind of up in the air about. You never really know with them. And I feel like that division is just so difficult with the Steelers, the Ravens, the Bengals, and then the Browns. I mean, if I'm looking at those four teams, which team do I think has the best chance of ending up on the bottom, I kind of feel like it's the Browns because I don't trust their coach.
No.
And I just haven't seen anything from Deshaun Watson that leads me to believe he's going to return to form. I mean, maybe he does, but I got to see it to believe it.
Yeah, I agree with you there. The thing about, I don't think we're going to learn much from this game. This is the hard part about preseason football. You used to tune in to see it, every once in a while you'll get a Victor Cruz moment. You'll get a guy who tears up the preseason, makes the team, and then suddenly down the road he becomes a star. But for the most part, the guys we're going to see now, I'd say 65% are going to end up being cut or put on taxi squads by the end of the camp. They're not going to risk anybody out there tonight. It's all going to be vanilla. But there are a couple of things I heard, but I don't know if I'll see it tonight because I heard good things about Michael Carter from the Jets camp. They said, he took a step back last year behind Breece Hall, but they said he's been tearing it up in camp. And that go ahead.
I think that's why they haven't gone out and gotten Dalvin Cook. I mean, they brought him in, they met with him, they had him in their building, and then they let him leave. And I don't know if they feel like he wants too much money. I don't know if they feel like Michael Carter's their guy. But I just felt like this would be the perfect spot for Dalvin Cook because Breece Hall's not going to be ready week 1, in my opinion.
No, he's not.
And even if he is, why put him out there? Why not let him continue to rest, continue to rehab, and then bring him along slowly. And if you've got a guy like Dalvin Cook, you can certainly do that. But I feel like they feel like they've got something in Michael Carter. And then I feel like they like Zonovan Knight and then also Israel Bakanade, the kid out of Pittsburgh. I think they like both those guys as well. So I do feel like that you made a good point. The running back position to me is the one I'm going to pay the closest attention to with the Jets because there's a lot of young guys that are fighting to get some carries, especially while Breece Hall is still healing up.
Yeah, I mean, if I would look to bring Breece Hall back October at the earliest. We all know, we just saw it with Saquon Barkley. This year is probably going to be, for the most part, a wash anyways. It takes about 2 years for them to get the confidence back in the joint and everything. We have seen Adrian Peterson and a few people, break the mold. But for the most part, if you go by past performances, this year is going to be kind of a wash for him. So bring him back slowly, and maybe he will be ready to go in October and November. And instead of putting him out there in September when he's maybe not mentally ready to do it. And if the young guns can keep him going until then, and you got Aaron Rodgers, there's no sense in not. I understand that picking up the shiny veteran would have been a great addition, and for Jet fans it would be another brick in the load, but probably he wanted too much money or wanted too much guaranteed money.
Give it to him. I mean, this is your chance. I mean, you went out and you spent $59 million originally on this quarterback. Then he takes a pay cut and says he's going to be around at least for a year or two and wants to try and help you win a championship. So why not go and sign him? Who gives a shit how much he wants? Bring him in, sign him on a 1-year deal for $15 million, whatever it is. The Ravens gave OBJ $18 million. He hasn't played in a year and a half. I mean, Dalvin Cook is a known commodity. This is a guy who has dominated this league every year he's been in it. I don't understand why you let him walk out of the building. This is the time. If the Jets are ever going to make the playoffs, which they haven't done in 12 years, which is the biggest drought of any team in professional sports, make it happen. Make the playoffs. Try and win a Super Bowl. Bring in a guy that can help you not only run the football, but catch the ball out of the backfield and make big-time plays because he's a badass.
No, I mean, yeah, he's definitely he's a breakout ready to happen. But maybe if there's something in the negotiations we don't know about, why it broke down, whatever. Maybe he just didn't really want to come here. Maybe he wants to go to Miami or wherever. Where's he going now? Did he sign yet?
No, he has not. He's the teams that it looks like that he's narrowed it down to are Miami's been in the sweepstakes the whole time. And it looks like they also are talking about potentially Dallas is also in the mix. because Zeke is gone, and then
Tony Pollard's a question
Tony
mark.
Pollard is still coming back from the broken leg. Jerry is never afraid to throw cash around. So I feel like most people think it's down to Miami or Dallas right now. And to be honest with you, either one of those teams would also be a good landing spot for him.
Yeah, they should be. I mean, I don't know. I think Dallas is. I think it's coming to the point where, someone's got to put Jerry out to pasture. I mean, this Dallas team has become like a walking meme. I don't know if you get the ones I get about, I got one a couple weeks ago where they showed a wagon train going across the prairie, and it said the last time it was the last Dallas Cowboy victory parade. Jerry Jones has taken this proud franchise, and much respect for the money it's worth. But I think that has a lot to do with sports, and the way that's going up is not just his genius. But I think the Cowboys are a joke. They really are. People look at them like a joke. They don't worry about the Cowboys anymore, even though they got Parsons and some great players. They don't think about them anymore.
They won 12 games last year, and I feel like a lot of people think that their roster is better this year. I mean, Brandon Cooks, they added him to the mix. Michael Gallup is supposedly finally healthy. This offensive line is 1 year, I think, closer to being a better unit with Tyron Smith supposedly somewhat healthy for once. That'll last for about 4 games, but they've got some backups that can get out there and play football. Tyler Smith, the kid they drafted out of Tulsa, he impressed me. I thought that they drafted him a little bit high, but to be honest, he was out in the field a lot last year and looked good. Terrence Steele has proven to be a pretty good football player at right tackle. Zach Martin wants more money. Big deal there. I'd pay his ass, let him do what he wants. And they've solidified this defensive line with the drafting of Mozzie Smith, the addition of Jonathan Hankins, and, Dorrance Armstrong coming back to the team. So I feel like this is a team that may surprise some people if Dak Prescott can throw it to the right squad.
Well, I was about to say, how many of those games were won by Cooper Rush at quarterback, and Dak was on the sideline? 5?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I mean, this team operated better when Dak wasn't out there, and I don't know if he just tried to do too much. I have no idea. But I've got a feeling that if he doesn't play very well, they may make the move and bring in the kid, because this offense certainly got it done, and they won a lot of games with Cooper Rush out there. I mean, Dak Prescott led the league in interceptions, and he missed 6 games.
Yeah, I mean, they were 5-1 without him, and 7-4 with him. I mean, that's not exactly $40 million money, even though he's making it, which is the craziness of that. Giants camp, hearing some good things about Daniel Jones, and I'm hearing a lot of good things about the Tennessee wide receiver.
Jalen Hyatt. Yeah, he's made strides. I mean, from every report I've read, it looked bad to begin with, but he's come around. This kid is very, very fast. I think he was a kind of a steal, honestly, getting him in the 3rd round. A lot of people, he won the Biletnikoff Award. I mean, he was the best wide receiver in college football, according to the people that vote on that shit. Honestly, Marvin Harrison Jr. was the best wide receiver, but whatever. This guy had a really good season, and certainly had one of the best seasons of any Tennessee wide receiver in a long time, probably since Alvin Harper. I think if they can get somebody to actually play wide receiver for this team, it's going to be a big difference from last year. I mean, Wan'Dale Robinson started to make strides, and then he got hurt. It was like Isaiah Hodgins, was probably their best wide receiver for most of the season, or Richie James was, and neither one of those guys is a showstopper. So I think the addition of Paris Campbell, he's impressed a lot of people this offseason in New York. First off, he's healthy for the first time in a long time, and he's making plays. So you got Darren Waller, you got Paris Campbell, you got Wan'Dale Robinson, you got Jalen Hyatt, you got Sterling Shepard coming back, Jamison Crowder. They have some guys to throw the football to, and that is a big, big change from what they did last year.
Hey, it's so funny. It's Sterling Shepard. He's another guy. As a Giant fan, I hope the best for him, but I just look at him and saying, I over under. Will he be playing in week 7? I mean,
maybe if they don't put him out there till week 5, he will be. But he's still coming back from the injury. I don't think they're going to rush him back. My thing is, when is Wan'Dale Robinson going to be ready? What does he look like? Because he was the guy that really stuck out on tape to me last year. They did sign Cole Beasley as well. Jamison Crowder. Those are 2 veterans that are supposed to be helping the team out. Darius Slayton's supposed to be back. As I mentioned, Hodgins and Campbell are 2 guys that are there. And then, Jalen Hyatt is the rookie that, everybody wants to see. But I think they're going to bring him along slowly as well. And my biggest thing for this whole team, and I know a lot of people probably don't agree with me, but my biggest thing is Darren Waller. If Darren Waller is healthy, if Darren Waller is the guy that played for the Raiders 2 years ago, then look out, because this Giants team could be unstoppable. If he's in and out of the lineup, if he's oft injured, then who knows. But if he can be the guy that we saw 2 years ago, there may be no stopping this offense.
Well, I'm a big guy. I mean, as a Giant fan, I go back to the Mark Bavaro, even beyond Mark Bavaro, I go back to the Bob Tucker days. And the Giants always had, if not all pro type tight end, they had a good tight end. But then, at the end of the Eli Manning time there, they couldn't find tight ends. They couldn't find them anymore. And they tried to bring in some, aging tight ends. They tried to, go out and draft a tight end, but they couldn't seem to get them anymore. It was really weird as a Giant fan that they couldn't find a freaking tight end. But,
yeah, I mean, Jeremy Shockey certainly lit it up there for a while in New York, and then after he left, it was slim pickings. But I'm telling you, Darren Waller has done it. He has been unstoppable before, but my problem is behind him, I don't really like what they have. Daniel Bellinger, Lawrence Cager, those guys to me are not difference makers. And so if he can get it done and be that guy for Daniel Jones, then this is sky's the limit. If he's not, then who knows? Because this is a tough division as well.
Bellinger is going to be his biggest asset is going to be on special teams and on goal line packages. Other than that, if he's a primary weapon, then the Giants are in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I mean, he impressed me honestly last year as a rookie. 30 catches, 268 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, that's 8.9 a catch. That to me was actually more than I thought he would provide as a rookie coming out of San Diego State. Getting drafted late in the 4th round like he did. But I just don't see. He's not Travis Kelce. He's not Darren Waller.
No, you want to stretch something.
I want to see somebody who can be a mismatch nightmare, and that's Darren Waller if he's healthy.
The whole thing is, I think the way the Giants are looking at it, I think the way Brian Daboll is looking at it is, they ran an offense last year that was pretty much close to the best because they had no weapons. Now stretch the field. And now if you stretch the field and you got guys running down with their backs to the line of scrimmage, all of a sudden Daniel Jones takes off. You're getting 50, like Josh Allen. You're getting 15, 20 yards a clip instead of, 7 or 8 and battling for the first down. So, and plus Saquon Barkley, get him the ball out in space on a linebacker instead of, these guys not worrying that the Giants had nobody that could get behind their safeties. They didn't have to worry about it. So
there's no doubt.
But now looking at this NFC East, I mean, we said after draft day, and rightfully so, when you look at it on paper, that the Eagles are the class of this division. And they've done really nothing to take that away. But have the Giants and Cowboys gotten any closer? Are we looking at you're playing for a wild card spot at those two teams?
I think they've definitely got closer. I don't, we were talking all off season about who's gotten better, who who's lost who's added who. Did the Eagles get better? In my opinion, no, I don't think they did. I mean, they lost, Hassan Ridgeway, who was the best defensive lineman that they had. I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, Fletcher Cox is a Hall of Famer.
His last legs.
He's unbelievable. But Ridgeway was the guy that made the difference last year, and he signed a huge deal with the 49ers. Good for him. But that's a big loss for the Eagles. And then, as I already talked about, Miles Sanders, got the contract to go down to Carolina, and they replaced him with DeAndre Swift. And to me, DeAndre Swift has not been a difference maker since he's come into the league, and he hasn't been a bust, but the Nick Sirianni keeps describing him as a playmaker, and he can be, but I look at him more as a pass catcher than I do a grinder, and that's what the Eagles have had the last few years is a grinder at running back, and I just don't know who that guy is with Miles Sanders gone. They've got Rashad Penny, who if he makes it through 3 games, that'll be a huge positive for him, because that guy's always hurt. He gets hurt in the damn locker room. And then you got Kenneth Gainwell and Boston Scott, who've been good in spurts. Very good in spurts, but
against
not
the Giants.
Yeah, against a lot of teams, but not guys that have just carried the load game in and game out. So that concerns me a little bit. And obviously, as I mentioned, on defense, losing Ridgeway, I think, was huge. Not to mention losing their middle linebacker, I think, is going to be a bigger deal than a lot of people think. And Nakobe Dean supposedly is going to step in and take it over. But I don't know if he's going to look the same as TJ Edwards did last year, who led that team to a Super Bowl. So a lot of question marks to me. Gardner Johnson being gone and moving on to Detroit, I think, is going to affect this team as well. The guy had 6 interceptions in the first 5 games, and I think losing him was a mistake. And then Hassan Reddick, they're going to need him to get it done on pass rush once again, and I think he possibly can, but that guy was just unstoppable last year, and I think most people are going to dictate their coverage towards him this season.
They'll be running ball at him, and they'll put an extra hat on him if they leave him open. So
I agree.
Yeah, they'll know where he is. But when you look about another team that is this do it or bust for the Bills.
Yeah, the Bills to me are a very, very weird team this year. Leslie Frazier stepping away for whatever he's got going on personally. Obviously their head coach is a former defensive coordinator. He's going to be taking over play calling duties. But is that a good thing?
No.
Is him taking away from what he's been doing? I mean, he's been very successful the last few years as a head coach, and now he's going to be focused more on running the defense. I don't know if that's a good thing.
Never works out.
I don't know if that's a good thing. And then also, we talk about injuries in the offseason, and to no fault of his own, Naheem Hines is already done for the year. I mean, this is a guy who took back 2 kick returns in 1 game last year, and now he's gone, lost for the season due to an idiot running into him on a jet ski. I do like their running back population. We talked about their running backs the last 3 or 4 years and how we didn't understand why they didn't go and sign somebody. They've done it. They got James Cook. They drafted him. They signed Damian Harris. They signed Latavius Murray. They signed Darrington Evans from the Titans. They got 4 guys that can make it happen. And now, Josh Allen hopefully won't have to carry the ball quite as much. But I don't know if I'm in love with their third wideout. Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, obviously very good, but they're working in Khalil Shakir.
What about Stephon Diggs' problems? I mean, is it all happiness and light now at camps here, or what the hell's up with these guys?
That's what they're selling. I don't know if I'm buying it. We'll see what happens when the season starts, but those 2 guys are proven commodities, Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis. Khalil Shakir is not a proven commodity, and maybe they think they can cover that up with Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid. Those are certainly 2 good tight ends, and we'll probably see a lot more 11 personnel with both those guys on the field.
Yeah, it's just like, but it just logically speaking, when you look at the Bills were supposed to be the team that knocked Kansas City off their high horse, and they didn't get it done. And now you got Cincinnati, who's been to one Super Bowl. Thank God they avoided a big injury with Joe Burrow, and thank God for his pocket. He avoided a large injury there. And I just look around and I think, I don't know. I don't know. I think the window is closing on that team. I just get this feeling, the patience is going to wear out on this coaching staff if they can't at least make a Super Bowl. I think they're in a Super Bowl must this year.
I feel that. I feel like there's a lot of pressure on them. I like their depth on their defensive line. They got Daquan Jones, they got Jordan Phillips, they got Ed Oliver, all those guys up front. And then, Von Miller is not going to be ready for the start of the season, but they do expect him to come back. They've got Shaq Lawson, AJ Epinesa, Greg Rousseau, Boogie Basham. And then also they signed Leonard Floyd. And to me, Leonard Floyd, that was the biggest signing for this team in the entire offseason. This is a guy who is a 10-sack machine year in and year out, and I feel like he can pick up a lot of the slack for Von Miller. But they also lost their middle linebacker, and they've got a 2 or 3 guy competition going on right now between Terrell Dotson, Balin Spector, and Terrell Bernard. Fighting over that middle linebacker position, but is any of them going to be as good as Edmonds, the guy they lost? I don't think so.
And the other thing is their division's gotten better. Like we talked just a few minutes ago, the Jets are better, and it's not going to be a walk in the park over the Jets this year. As long as Aaron Rodgers is healthy and upright, the Jets should be able to challenge them.
I think the Patriots are better. I think the Dolphins are a better team if Tua can stay on the field, and so there's going to be no cakewalks in any of these divisional games for the Buffalo Bills. I think these other teams have lessened. We talked about shortening the gap in the NFC East. I think in the AFC East, the gap is closed between the Bills and the other teams.
Yeah, and I think that, this coaching staff is going to be looked at going, well, for 2.5 to 3 years, you pretty much had what the Patriots had for 20 years. You were the class of that division and didn't get it done. Even though this staff put the Bills back on the map after years of Rex Ryans and those guys going up there promising and failing, they put it back on them back on the map. But I think right now it'll leave the fans PO'd if they don't make a large run this year.
Yeah, and I kind of half expected them to make a run at DeAndre Hopkins, and they did not. And that's like I'm saying, I'm worried about that third wide receiver position. I mean, can they survive with the 2 tight end sets and Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs? Yeah, but wait till Stephon Diggs gets pissed off and Gabe Davis gets hurt. Well, then what do? I don't know. They certainly don't have any surefire depth but behind those 2 guys.
Yeah, and like you said, right now, Kansas City is riding high. You're betting with against them being able to do it again, and I would not bet against them being able to do it again. I think they're going to be the class of that division. Plus, like you said, their division's getting better. We already talked about the AFC North is getting better. Trevor Lawrence and the Jags look like that, not this year maybe, but they've already made the playoffs and won a playoff game, so they're in better shape. And then you got LA Chargers. They haven't done it yet, but they have a great young quarterback. So it's going to be real interesting to see if the Bills can maintain what they've had for the last few years. And I don't know. I've seen the Jets fall on their face before, but I don't think they're going to fall on their face this time. And I just think that the Bills might be the team that falls the farthest.
Well, that's what I just said. I mean, the gap is closed. I mean, no longer is it the Bills and then the other 3 teams. I mean, the other 3 teams are right here, below the Bills. They might still be the favorite, but I certainly wouldn't be surprised if the Jets, the Dolphins, or even the Patriots were to win that division. None of those three teams winning the division would shock me.
All right, well, with some time we got left, let's talk a little college here. The Northwestern scandal has now reached the NFL because the GM of the Green Bay Packers is now has 2 suits against him. So this Northwestern scandal, which to me was, like I said, at the time, kicked me right in the gut because I really believed in Pat Fitzgerald. It kills me that it turns out that this guy was generally a jackass. It seems. What are you hearing about Northwestern?
I know a lot of people that were very, very close to that program for a very, very long time, and I've never heard jackass and Coach Fitzgerald in the same breath. A lot of former players, former staffers, people that know Pat, they love him, and they've always loved him. That's why he's been the coach there for 20 effing years. And, to put this all on him, I think it's kind of bullshit. And, that's what, as I explained to you before, that's what really bothers me is that, you fire Pat, blame it all on him, and then you promote somebody that probably was closer to this than him and leave the rest of the staff intact. I think that's bullshit.
Well,
And,
didn't they bring the guy didn't they promote the guy as a new defensive coordinator who hadn't been there, or had he been there?
I think he'd been there for at least a year, but it just to me, it just rubbed me the wrong way that they leave the rest of the coaching staff intact and promote some of these guys and then fire Pat Fitzgerald. And we're going to find out who knew what, because there's going to be lawsuits going on for a long time. Pat was owed over $50 million left on his contract, and he's not going to let that go. So we'll see who knew what and what really happened. I just think it's kind of bogus to make a deal and have a 2-week suspension worked out, and then the next day come back and be like, no, we're firing his ass. I mean, which is it? Is it a 2-week? Is it worthy of 2-week suspension, or is it worthy of trying to end this guy's career? I mean, I don't know. Which.
Well, that's the whole thing, is we'll never get the full true story as to how much was going on, who knew what, and everything. When the president of the university comes out and says, I made a mistake and now I'm looking into it further. Well, why didn't you look into it further the first time around? Did you think it was a joke the first time around? Nothing rings true in this story. Nothing at all.
Well, yeah, and they're bringing in Skip Holtz as a special assistant. He is now a special assistant to the interim head coach, David Braun. What is Skip supposed to provide? I don't really know, but they keep telling me that he's got 22 years of head coaching experience at UConn. UConn, East Carolina, South Florida, and Louisiana Tech. And I'm like, he got fired from every one of those places. So I don't really understand what he's supposed to bring to the table. And, I think that this season's going to be pretty rough to deal with. So I guess, the guy they promoted, Dave Braun, he has only been there for a year. And I don't know. I just think that, it's a rough situation for no doubt, but to just take the word of some of these kids that, got glossed over in some of these positions, and some of these kids that transferred out and that had a vendetta against Pat, there's a hell of a lot more players that love Pat Fitzgerald than there is that don't like him. I know for a fact.
I hope you're right, because like I said, I've always liked Pat Fitzgerald. I wouldn't have minded seeing him go to Notre Dame, although I loved the story of him staying with his alma mater. I thought it was finally somebody you could believe in at the college. At the here's a guy who could have gone to quote unquote greener pastures, for much more green, and been able to actually recruit against the big boys at a Notre Dame, at one of these bigger universities. Instead, he stayed at home in Northwestern and knew it was going to be an uphill battle. Once every 3 or 4 years, he'd have a team that could at least battle with these guys. But that means every other, every 4 years, you'd start to cycle over again and get your ass beat up for 2 years. So, I mean, I respect
who's gonna do that again?
Nobody.
It's like the old you play the hero long enough, you become the villain, and I feel like that's what's happened here. You try and actually display some loyalty, and what happens? The university at the first sign of anything going wrong, they just flip on the guy and pin this all on his ass, and that makes me sick.
Well, that was like Joe Paterno. I mean, I'm sorry. I know a lot of people wanted, him to. He did everything he was supposed to do. He reported everything he was supposed to do, and the people up top didn't do anything about it. They kept letting Sandusky come back. Was Joe a hero in this? No, but he also shouldn't have been the face of the villainy. He didn't. He wasn't the one who was committing the crimes, and he got caught up in what's corporate America. People don't understand is that you can talk about sports. Sports is not sports, whether it's the college level or whether it's in the pros. It's corporate America, and the lawyers tell you what to do. Did you just freeze? I think you froze. Come back to me. You back?
Yes, sir.
All right. So I mean, those are just two examples to me. It was like, Paterno had always had a great reputation, but in the end, I think they wanted to get rid of him anyways, too.
No, they wanted to pin it on somebody, and no one knows who the hell the athletic director is, or most people don't. Most people don't know the name of the university president, but everybody knows Joe Paterno. So then he gets to fall on the sword, and all the blame gets pointed towards him. And like you mentioned, could he have done more? I mean, maybe. I think that's what he always said was, could I have done more? Should I have done more? Should I have done something different? Maybe so. But these guys that were in charge of the freaking university should have done more when he told them about this instead of trying to hide it. Kind of like some people that have been pretty up high in our Catholic Church around the world. They move these guys around to different churches instead of putting them on taking them to task. And that's kind of how it's been done over and over again. And that's what they tried to do. And once it got fully uncovered, they threw Jope on the sword, and it killed him. It literally killed him.
It did. It literally killed him. And I also think too is they wanted to get rid of him because they figured he couldn't win national championships anymore. The fan base was starting to turn on him. I know.
And he had too much power. I mean, it's the same thing with Pat Fitzgerald. I mean, who's the face of the Northwestern football program? Who's the one that was making most of the decisions over there? It was Pat Fitzgerald. And some of the guys that are above him didn't like it. The president probably didn't like that. The athletic directors at times probably didn't like that. And boom, here's our opportunity to get him the F out.
Name every other coach at Northwestern win valuable prizes. And they also had to get rid of their baseball coach.
Yeah.
Same week. So maybe that AD should start looking for a new job. Anyways.
Exactly.
So anyways, I'm about to lose my voice. We're going to wrap this up now. What's going on Sunday?
Nothing Sunday. We're taking off, but August 13th, we got Raymond Harris coming on the man coverage show. Obviously, a former Ohio State, one of the all-time rushers at Ohio State University, went on to a career with the Chicago Bears, and now he's got his own business going on. EMP is a business where he's a speaker, a coach, an executive consultant, where he tries to help people, get the best out of whatever they're doing. And so this kid, this man, is a true legend across the board.
All right, people. Thanks for tuning in tonight. We'll be back next Thursday. Football is upon us. Preseason starts tonight. Everybody, let's see what we'll see with the Jets and the Browns. Buddy, have a good night. I'll talk to you over the weekend.
Jets, Jets, Jets.
And there we go.